This video is brought to you by my two books, Practical Music Theory for the Rock Guitarist and The Blues Guitar Bible. Want to learn about modes, harmony, scales, chord substitution and keys? Or maybe you're interested in supercharging your blues guitar rhythm and lead chops. Whatever you're interested in, I guarantee you will be hitting the fast lane to progress with either of these works. Both feature video demonstrations and tutorials, loads of tabs and jam tracks to play along with, and I promise you, everything is explained in crystal clear plain English. Check out the links in the description for more details. Hello chaps, welcome once again to John Robson Guitar Tuition. As always, I do hope you're well. Now, back in 1979, I'd been playing guitar about a year. I was just taking my first steps and the charts were full of, the music I was listening to then was all that sort of 50s rock and roll nostalgia stuff, Shawaddy Waddy, the Darts, all that kind of thing. The charts were full of that and, the dying embers of punk and, plenty of just interchangeable Europop disco pap that seemed to be everywhere. And then along came a band that sounded like nothing I'd ever heard before in my young and tender 12 years of age. I think they were massively influential. So that's who we're looking at today. Here's a little pastiche I put together that is me trying to sort of emulate the very famous guitarist from that band. Yeah, that's me sort of getting my Knopfler trousers on a little bit, and that's what this video is about. It is not me showing you how to be a Mark Knopfler impersonator. It's just looking at a few of the traits that he uses in his playing that, hopefully I can make them accessible and you can incorporate them into your own playing and just get a little bit of that Knopfler spirit into your own solos. I think that Dire Straits and Mark Knopfler were a massively influential band. As we moved forward into the 80s, there'd be some song on the radio that, a few years beforehand might have had a guitar part on it that was played on a 335 a la Larry Carlton. And then suddenly, as we went into the 80s, you started hearing more and more songs that had that clean, compressed Stratocaster tone going on. Here's a little bit of an explanation about what I was doing in that piece of music that was hopefully conveying that that spirit of Dire Straits and Mark Knopfler.
Here is the explanation.
Right, so let me begin by using an anecdote that I've told once before, I think, in these videos. Many years ago, decades ago in fact, I was in a band that was essentially the backing band for this singer-songwriter chap. And, you know, he thought he was onto something good. He thought these songs really had something. And, well, yeah, okay. But he said to me one time, he says, "Can you play a little bit like a sort of Mark Knopfler, Dire Straits solo on this song?" And I said, "Well, write a chord sequence as good as one of his, and I probably could, yeah." Didn't go down too well. But the point I was making in a rather facetious way there was that in many ways it's the chord sequence that you're playing over that does much of the heavy lifting in making the guitar solo that's played over the top of it sound good. That's why in all of these explanation sections of these types of videos, I always start off by taking a look at the chord sequence, and that's what we're going to do here. It's in the Aeolian mode, or the natural minor key. I've done videos on that in the past, but briefly, if we're in the key of E major, we have the 1 chord, the 4 chord, and 5 chord. The chords of E, A and B. Each one of those major chords has a relative minor. The relative minor of the E chord is the C sharp minor. The relative minor of the A chord is the F sharp minor. And the relative minor of the B chord is a G sharp minor. You string all those chords together: E, F sharp minor, G sharp minor, A, B and C sharp minor. We won't worry about the little half diminished thing at the moment. But you string all those chords together, you've got the key of E major. If you then refocus that to make the C sharp minor chord, the 6 chord, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, if you make that the focus of what's going on, you are in what's called the natural minor key, which can also be called the Aeolian mode. And Mark Knopfler does like to use the Aeolian mode. Sultans of Swing, apart from one little secondary dominant or possibly borrowed chord from the harmonic minor key, is in the Aeolian mode. Brothers in Arms, Aeolian mode. Espresso Love, Aeolian mode. Tunnel of Love, Aeolian mode. Telegraph Road, Aeolian mode. Your Latest Trick, Aeolian mode. All of these songs are either entirely in the Aeolian mode, the natural minor key, or large sections of them are. So that's what I decided to do with the chord sequence here. We've got C sharp minor, going to A, going to F sharp minor, going to B, then back to C sharp minor, to a first inversion B, B over D sharp, to an E, and then A and B, bring it back around to the C sharp minor again. So over the top of that we can use the C sharp minor pentatonic in any of its positions all over the neck. And the before we get into the notes, let's just talk about the tone. Clean single coil tone through a Fendery style amp. That's what I've got here. I'm using the PRS SECE 24 middle position with the single coil switching engaged, and I'm going into the clean channel of the Blue Guitar Amp 1. Okay, that's like, you know, you can tell that just from listening to any Dire Straits tune, really. Certainly any of the earlier stuff. Single coils, usually a Strat, into some kind of clean Fender amp. But the other thing which is often missed is a little bit of compression helps as well. Mark used to use, famously, the Dan Armstrong Orange Squeezer compressor pedal. Certainly it's all over that first Dire Straits album, and what that does is it just means that you've got a bit more sustain out of your clean tone, so you can get this kind of thing and get the note to sustain a little bit longer than it would if you didn't have the compression on. So yeah, C sharp minor pentatonic is a good way of mapping out the neck for, well, C sharp Aeolian mode. You know, it's just a good starting point. I tend to view the neck in pentatonic positions and then just add additional notes as needed. And that's what it appears that Mark tends to do, because if we take a look at like a famous little lick from Sultans of Swing, okay, You notice that that's in D minor. You can see how that's just coming out of like a D minor pentatonic. But when the chord, and that's actually just a D minor arpeggio he's playing there. He does like to use arpeggios. I'll probably talk a bit more about those shortly. But when that chord changes from the D minor to the B flat in Sultans of Swing, he could just stay on this note. It'd be in key. It could, it would work, but he doesn't. He kind of makes the deliberate and conscious choice to turn that A note there into a B flat. So becomes, he's reacting to the chord changes. So in this little scenario here, where I'm down a semitone in C sharp minor, there's my C sharp minor pentatonic. When it goes to the A chord, I'm often landing on the A note there. Okay, so there's my C sharp minor pentatonic on those two strings. There's an A note there, which is a note I'm adding to the scale as a way of reacting to the chord sequence. And, when you start doing that and using arpeggios all over the place, like one little shape that Mark tends to use a lot, you see it in a lot of his solos, is this one. If I take this B chord here, which is just this D shape down here, move it up to here, and you've got a B chord, like that, he'll start, there's the note that's actually in the chord there, that's the D sharp, but he'll start a semitone higher and go like that. Like that. So you work that into a lick. Like that. You find that little move in lots of his solos. And often he'll just play the chords, and that's part of the solo. I mean, there's a famous part in Sultans of Swing, which I'm not going to play here, because copyright. We don't want to upset the copyright wombles. But I sort of parodied that in my little tune, where I go from a C sharp minor like that. Like that. So I'm playing over the C sharp minor chord and stepping down by this B triad here to the A chord, which is when the A chord has come. And then, double stops as well. Or I think that's what I played there. Again, you can hear the Sultans of Swing kind of thing going on there, but just taking the chords and making little rhythmic motifs out of them, like that, da da da, like that, and it just becomes, another type of lick that's in the solo or riff or something like that. You can't. Let's talk about the double stops a little bit more. He does tend to like to use these. I was using sixths here, but you can use thirds. Thirds and sixths are just inversions of each other. Essentially, a third is a pair of notes that are 3 scale steps apart. So you've got a high note and a low note, and if you move the low note up an octave, then it becomes a sixth. Now you've got 2 notes which are 6 scale steps apart. So that's what I was doing here with little things like this. Thing like that. So I'm just playing notes from the C sharp natural minor scale, C sharp Aeolian mode. Like that. Like that. So I'm just going up the scale, essentially an E major scale, but reorientated to the C sharp on this string, and then just tracking it 6 notes above on this string. Like that kind of thing. And you can hear you just doing that with that single coil tone with the compression on. It starts already sounding a little bit reminiscent of the early Dire Straits kind of thing. And then one, like probably the most characteristic aspect of Mark's playing is what I call the bouncing bend. You know, some guitar players would bend like this, F sharp up to a G sharp here like this, and add a bit of vibrato at the top maybe. Like that. Mark will often just kind of do a little bounce in the middle of it, hence the bouncing bend, you know, where he'll go. See that kind of, bend it up, let it down, and then bring it back up again. And can you hear how those notes are sustaining nicely? Thank you. Compression. That's what's why you use a bit of compression there. Another thing he likes to do is to play 16th notes. Okay, now 16th notes, if you're not aware of sort of rhythmic notation and stuff like that, it's basically where you're playing 4 notes per beat. And the way to sort of be able to hear 16th notes is to think, depending upon your preference, Coca-Cola or Pepsi-Cola on each beat. So if I just fire up the metronome here, let's just take the speed down a little bit. Here we go. So here's just a regular beat, and if you say Pepsi-Cola, which I'm going to use, on each beat, you get the sound of 16th notes. There we go. Pepsi-Cola, 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 da-da-da-da, 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 da-da-da-da. I'll just play some simple pentatonic stuff in that rhythm. That kind of thing, okay? And you'll notice I'm using a pick here. You know, I think a lot of people get hung up on the fact that a very obvious thing about the way Mark plays is he uses his fingers. Although if you look at the live version of Espresso Love from the Alchemy concert, he's using a pick on that song there, I swear it. But, you know, that to me is immaterial. For things like when I'm doing the chord, then, yeah, I need multiple points of contact simultaneously. It just doesn't work if you kind of strum it. So I've got this little, well, thing where I just do that with a pick, you know, easy enough. Sometimes I'll kind of hide it in there, you know, so just that way of being able to get rid of the pick when you don't need it and get hold of it when you, similar to what Chris Buck does. You see him doing that all the time. Yeah, so just I use the pick, and, you know, just again that little Sultans of Swing thing, you know. Pepsi-Cola, 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 Pepsi-Cola. Okay, so it's doing that sort of 16th note thing on that, and, you know, combine that with a little bit of a bouncing bend and some double stops, you can start going. Yeah, went in the wrong key there at the end there, beg your pardon, but you get the idea. It just evokes that sort of Knopfler-esque kind of thing. So, Aeolian mode, natural minor key, single coil, clean tone with compression, making good use of chord notes, double stops, bouncing bends, and 16th notes. You start throwing a bunch of those things into your solos, and you're going to start evoking the Knopfler-esque spirit, if there is such a thing. Anyway, now you know what to do. Go away and have some fun with it. And as always, you'll find a full tab for that solo at the top of the video in both Guitar Pro and PDF formats, along with a clip of me playing it, the backing track I was using, and that explanation you've just seen there. That's all up on my Patreon page. There's the address on screen, link in the description. You know all this by now, but I'll mention it in case you're new to the channel. $3 or about £3 a month gets you access to all of these extra goodies and resources that go along with these videos, and a massive heartfelt thank you to each and every one of you who support me in that, or any of the other ways, all of which are downstairs in the description. And that's it for today, folks. Hope you've enjoyed the video, found it useful and informative, and hopefully entertaining in some small way. And if that's the case, please hit the subscribe button and the notification bell if you haven't already done so. And why not drop me a like as well while you're at it. Don't, of course, forget the live stream every Friday, 5 PM UK time. Beer and chat on a Friday. That's all it is. and it's a great way to kick off the weekend, and I'd love to see you there if you can make it. But for now, I'll bid you all a good day and say thank you so much for watching. Thank you for your time. Look after yourselves, folks. Stay well, stay safe, and above all, stay sane. Bye for now.